So today we're going to take and pull out our 2000 watt Magnum inverter and replace it with a Magnum hybrid 3000 watt inverter. So we've already kind of started this on the other side of the motorhome, but what we're doing is up here you see the positive and negative black plastic caps. Well, those cables run over to the batteries, and we're on the other side pulling them off the batteries, and we're going to pull them back through because those are 2-aught cables and we need to put 4-aught cables into place when we pull out this inverter and add the new one in. So we'll go to the other side and see what we got going on over there. So I should have started this picture before I started pulling everything out, but there's our two big lithium batteries that we pulled out. Here's our big spaghetti mess of wires, but this is what we're after. We're after the positive from the inverter and the negative from the inverter charger. And they go up through the frame, back down through the middle, and then over to the other side. So we'll be fishing these cables out. I already pulled, this was in our wiring block, our negative wiring block, and this actually came from this location right here, which is the back side of our on and off switch, which then it proceeds to go to this wire here, down here somewhere, right there, and then that would hook into the negative side of our wiring block right here with it has a 600 amp fuse, and which is interesting for a 200 watt inverter when the book says a 300 amp fuse. And when talking to Magnum, they also said to go with when we update, go with a 400 amp fuse, but we already had a 600 amp fuse, which is kind of confusing why Tiffin did that on this build. But anyway, I do have a 400 amp fuse plus my 600 amp fuse that came out. So we're going to go with the 400 amp fuse because that's what Magnum says to put in between the batteries and the charger unit. So that's what we're going to go with when we put all this stuff back. And when we put it all back, it will look a heck of a lot better than this kind of spaghetti mess that we've got going on right now. But we will get to that later. Now for some of the fun part, we're going to crawl underneath the motorhome. And unfortunately I don't see what's going on here. Alright, so here's where we're at. Right up in here. Those are our two cables that we need to pull. And we're going to pull them out from right here without getting the dirt pulled into our eyeballs. And they go over there to that side and back up through, back over there somewhere. And we will take and fish this stuff through and see what we get. So let me turn this off here for a second, get reset up, and we'll pull these cables. All right, hopefully you can see that as I pull these cables out and not get this into my eyeballs, which I could tell I'm going to. All right. Let me see. Well, let's pull them out first. And it looks like of course I got one that's tie wrapped to everything else. Shoot. Well, hold on, I gotta go get a cutter. Okay, I'm back. So I went and got some little cutters. So I was looking for my bigger pair, but I found these first. So I'm gonna All right, I got that cut. All right. Continue feeding. Always wear safety glasses. All right. This is going to be a mess. So I'm going to cut this one off. This is when you wish you had the bigger pair. You'll just make a series of smaller cuts. There we go. That makes it a lot easier. We'll replace that one. All right, continue snake, snake, snake. All right. And then, let's see. Where does it go from there? It goes up around the frame on the other side. So we're going to just show you that if I can. Up here. Right up here. I don't know if you can see that. And then it's going to go over here on the other side. Over here somewhere. I can't see it, but we'll get to it here eventually. All right. Let's turn you off and reposition. Okay, so I can't feed the cables up because they're kind of back here into this. There's a hole back there with a grommet that they pass up through, and here they come up over the inverter and they bolt in right here. This red positive, of course, and black negative. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this off here, and then we're going to go ahead and take out the Magnum and then feed those cables off. I've got the new 4/0 cable laying over here in my brother-in-law's garage, stretched out, and then we will cut the same length on both of them because that seemed to be the right length for them, and fish them all back through before we put the new inverter. So we're just going to start taking apart, not taking apart, but disconnecting the rest of these cables. We got these cables here are the AC that's going into the motorhome and back out of the motorhome, or vice versa, to power the AC appliances. And of course those are the chargers, and then we got the remote switch, the monitoring switch, and the heat or the BTS piece. So we'll get that all done, and I'll have this right here so you can see it all as we do it. So we'll be back here in a second. So getting back here, I had to take this plate off. There is some wiring that will be done here, and I wanted to capture that on some stills, so I had something to reference back to. So now we'll set back up and we'll continue back here, taking this off over here. So all right, so we're going to start with taking off the positive cables stuff. All right. Do this the fast way. All right. All right, that's done. Oh, I need to go get my wrench. I shall return. So I'm using a 13 millimeter here on this. I guess I could have looked and see exactly what I needed, but that fits and it doesn't take in. It fits snug. I mean, not like super snug. That won't fit on there, and not so loose that it's going to mar the edges of your nut. So we're good there. Okay. So let's see. Oh, we gotta. What's that take? Of course, that takes something different. Our ground wire. It's a flathead, of course. I think I got one out here. Let's see if this fits. If not, I'm going to have to go get a... Oh, perfect. Here, this is a DeWalt angle driver. This thing, I just bought it this past week, and we've probably used it 20 different times on about 3 different projects. It's a lifesaver for getting into tight corners. You just connect it into your drill, and it works at any angle. A little bit more. There we go. The ground is off. All right. Let's see. Away. These cables are all on top. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take and loosen up the bolts. I don't know if you can see those up here. It's kind of dark, but there's 4 mounting screws, and you just have to loosen them and move the unit over, and then the unit will pull out. So I'm going to pull it out, and then I'm going to set it down like this, hopefully. Yep, UPS man coming. Maybe coming with my wife's desk. I think this will work. Oh. All right, well, I'm gonna have to go get a flashlight because it's a little dark to see exactly what type of those units are right there. Bolt heads or screw heads. So I'm gonna turn this off. I'll be right back. So you just missed a bunch of stuff. So let me go around a second round. Let me get showing this. So I got all the screws unscrewed right here, and they're all on a slider. So you slide it to the middle bolt or the middle hole here, and this thing just pops off the wall, which is good, except for over here. I don't know if I can get to it. You can see it right here. This one is on the opposite side. So they put it like this because everything's going to slide that way. But this here basically locks it in, keeps it from sliding that way. So even though you got these bolts screwed down, it can still jiggle and, possibly jiggle to the center and then pop off, and that's not what you want happening going down the road. So you just put it on the opposite side of this one, and it kind of locks this thing into place from jiggling off its holder. So we should be ready. I'll finish taking that one out, and then we should be ready to move this thing down here onto the platform and finish taking our wires off. All right. Move some of the tools out of the way. All right. Get this guy out of here. And they should pop out. Ta-da! Self-tapping screws. All right, put this guy up here. Now, if I planned for everything to be correct, this should work now. Should slide off. There we go. And should. Well, it looks like they're sliding off those holes. It's kind of humid today. Well, for one thing, I can't see, so you can't see what I'm doing. Alright, so I think that one screw back there is just off a little bit, so we're just going to take it out. Maybe. We're almost there. It's like stuck in the hole. There it goes. Alright. I think this thing's about 50 pounds and you're at a wrong angle. Chiropractor and physical therapist is just going to love me. Alright, one more. One more is going to come out. We got it. Oh my gosh, this thing's heavy. you can't see, but I can see. We're back to our wires. And we have access to all these wires. And then there's the hole. It's got some foamy stuff that I can now push those cables back through there. Might have to dig that out over there. But we're moving right along. Okay. Okay, I'm going to turn you off. I got some tie wraps here that I got to cut to get that, and then I'm going to fish that down through. And want to hang on to our screw. Put it over here in our pile, and I'll be back. Okay, cutting back in here. So I'm fishing these wires back through the hole here, but right when I start to push that thing into the abyss, I thought, hold on, that might be hard to fish back out. So I went to take in, I got some string. I'm going to tie onto here and then fish it through. So if I need to pull it back through, I got a wire to help, or a string to help pull that wire back through there. So I'm just going to feed it on here before I feed that cable back through that hole, and that'll save us some time later on. Okay, so now we pulled out the old wires, positive and negative. Here's our new wires, positive and negative. Here's our parts. These are our ends. Here's our new wiring harness stuff. And then I got a heat shrink gun, some electrical tape, my 4/0 wire cutters, and then this is the crimper for the end pieces here. So let me get this set up and we'll start working on this. Okay, so this is our crimper unit. It's already got the 4/0. You like that? That's the coating that they put underneath the motorhome. Rub up against it and you get stuff that doesn't want to wash off. I don't know if you can see that, but it's a 4/0. Alright, so we'll get that set up. Get our end pieces. Maybe. Oh, of course it's sealed. Alright. And a nice Ziploc bag. So we're going to do our negative first. So I'm going to get our stuff out. We're going to have two lugs. I couldn't remember what the name of those things were. Alright. And then we got black tape to tape up the ends like that. Alright, so let's measure this off. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull this down here. And a little extra is not going to kill us, so we'll just cut it right there. You can get different sizes of these cutters, but this thing works like a hot knife through butter. Effortless. Nice clean cut. So oh well, I was just going to say you should measure it twice, but I've already cut it, so I'm going to have to live with it. Oh, I forgot one thing. How are we going to trim that wire back? Let me go get that. Alright, here's our wire shield cutter. It just has basically a small little blade in there, and we're going to find out that this goes like right about there turn your blade here at the bottom so you're going in the right direction, and you can screw it down so it doesn't cut your cabling. You put it on there. Oh, let me measure again. It should go right about there. That's where it should go. Just turn it a couple times. It cuts a little hole for you, or a little, and if not, do it again. That should be right. Now, this is the hard part, making sure you get it in the right spot. Ow. And there we go. Now, unfortunately, I think I got too much. Oh, nope. That's about right. All right, so let's see if I can. Oh, hold on. Let me put this down here so you can see this. So, slide that in there. Now, it always helps that we're going to put this on. It's going to come up over our inverter, so we're going to, the cable's flexing that way, so that's the way we're going to crimp this connector on there. And we're going to tighten it up. And right as it starts to get a bite, push your cable in and then pump it until you stop. Right about there. It won't, without forcing it. You don't want to force it, but it has basically sealed it. Hold it off. And you can see it's crimped. Now we do have a little place there where the rubber is showing, but that's okay. That's what we use the heat shrink for, is to hide all that. So let me do that. It's going to take me a little bit, so I'll be right back. And one finished product. Now I'll just do the other side. I'm not going to film all of it because it looks the same every time. So once I get done and we move on to the next project, I'll come back in. Okay, so we've now finished putting the cables together. I've got my power cable. This will be the DC cables going from the inverter to the batteries, and then the ground going to the batteries. Then I've also made a ground from the wiring box to chassis ground, which it's missing, and I don't know why it didn't have that. And then from the battery turn off, there was a 2-aught cable, so I made a smaller 4-aught cable that will be just get rid of some of the extra cable line in the battery area. So these are all done. Now I did put, you notice the red marks on that, so if you just have to trace it out underneath the motorhome, you can easily identify that that is the power, the positive cable, not the negative cable, because once it's underneath there, black is black looking. So hopefully identify that a little bit better. All right, so now we're going to move on to pulling out the old inverter. We'll pull the old inverter out, we'll run these cables, and then we'll start putting the new inverter back in. Okay, so here is the old inverter, the wiring. So it'll be, looks like fairly easy to pull those wires out. Just take off the, I don't know what these connectors are called. These connectors. But anyway, they just pop off really easily. And then we'll make sure we note over here on the cables which is the in and the out. So when we go hook it up back into the new unit, we will know which one's which. So let's get that happening. Okay, so here's our two new positive, negative wires. They are the 4-aught cables. Was able to take and fish them back through the same holes. Was a little tighter because a little bit bigger cables, but it's just the hole right there, and it's because I used bigger whatever these things called. I'm losing my concentration here, but the wiring loom pieces, but it works out for this bigger cable. And now we'll take and put back the new inverter and get it all hooked up. Oh, one thing I did note, see which one are these. You have to always keep track of which ones you're in, your AC in and AC out. Tiffin did a good job of marking them. I went ahead and marked them down here as this is the in, and you can't see it because of the wiring loom. Here you go. It says out. So when we get this all put up here, we might forget, but it's there at the end of the cable. So let's go and there I've already unboxed it up there on the wall. I stacked them just to make sure that the mounting holes were the same, and they are, thank goodness. And so we'll come back here, wire this up, and mount it up. Okay, so we got the inverter set down here on the floor, and we've taken and put the in, the hot, or these are the out actually, the hot out, neutral out, and then hot in, neutral in, and these are, in there secured, and then the ground, down here to the ground. There will be another ground out here. It's on the other side. That'll be hooked up to there. Once we get it mounted, we're going to put the plate on and then get this thing mounted up into its location. So we'll cut back in a few. Okay, so we've got it, the new Magnum Sign hybrid mounted up, wired up. Got all the wire cables here, got it all tied up. I still need to put a couple tie straps on this one tie wraps, whatever they're called. And then I got all the wiring done, ran across, got them tied up underneath, and then on the other side, we'll go over there real quick. And so here's the lithium batteries with the wiring cables. This is the shunt. I don't have that quite mounted yet, but it's fine where it's at. Got a Bluetooth extender, and then this panel I still need to move it over, but I don't want to move it until I turn everything on, and then I'll bolt it back up right there. So we're going to turn this on and see what happens. Okay, so we don't have no power yet, so we're going to go and plug this into shore power, and this thing should start up. Well, if that's not turned on, it won't show anything there because the batteries are not going through it yet. It has been turned on to tell it to do its thing. That's the all right. It's starting up. Let's see what it's saying here. Dead battery charge. Okay, so we need to go here. I don't know what to set that to. Well,
Any thoughts?
There's a fault. What's the fault?
Power on and off. Charger. Charging, inverting.
Well, it says inverting, so it should be... let's turn this off. Okay, so we're back. And if you look, we got a constant current. We finally got a green light. The fault that we seen earlier was because the inline fuse, I put in a 400 amp, which is what was spec, but the 400 amp one I put in was a bad one that I didn't throw away when I should have. And so it was a bad fuse on my inline fuse. Over here where the battery from the inverter, or the inverter line, comes into the battery. So I put in the original one that was, whoops, don't see that beer. Right here, that's my inline. And I put back in the 600 amp that came with the motorhome. So I put it back in and everything fired up just perfect. So everything looks good at the point. So it was a long day. Making the cables was probably the hardest part of the day, and but everything's back up and running. So thanks a lot.